Marky, around April, May 2015, what was your work schedule and your SWAT training schedule like? How many days a week? What were you work out?
Yes, sir. Well, around April, we graduated from the SWAT cycle, and immediately after, I went back into patrol duties. However, at that time, the department was dealing with manning issues, and therefore, all precincts just about at the patrol level had to pull extra days.
And what were those extra days? For instance, what was your work schedule?
Right. Well, we were averaging 6 days a week, 10 to 12-hour days.
And at this time, were you still engaged in activities with the guard?
Very much so.
And what would that include?
It's the weekend drills as well as 2 weeks out of the year annual training. But as an executive officer, you're not just detailed to the time you show up for drill. Throughout the weeks leading up to drill, you're preparing.
Friday, July 10th, 2015. Were you working that day?
Yes, sir. I volunteered to stay due to shortages. I didn't have to because that was a drill weekend, and those who were a part of Guard or Reserve had already pulled the required hours so that we can have the Friday night off going into our drill weekend. Because
And what is drill weekend?
Mhm.
What is drill weekend?
Drill weekend is basically Saturday and Sunday from average between 4 and 5 a.m. to anywhere to 6 or 7 p.m.
On Saturday or Sunday?
The average days are both Saturday and Sunday.
And what time did you work on Friday?
Friday night, leading up to that, we were on first platoon, which is 9:30 p.m. into the next day, 6 a.m.
You were off shift at 6 a.m. Saturday morning.
Yes, sir.
What happens next?
Well, I had to get ready for drill, so I went home, got ready as quickly as I could, and was now at my second job,
Which is
drill,
where?
at the Guam Army National Guard Readiness Center in Barragata, across from the post office.
So after getting home and changing, what time did you get to drill on Saturday?
I'm gonna say about 9 or 10 a.m. that day,
And how long did you stay at drill?
till about maybe 6 p.m.
Okay. And what happened after 6 p.m.? Saturday night.
Saturday night, got home, tried to get as much sleep as I could for the following day.
And what did you do the following day? What time did you wake up on Sunday?
Once-
July 12th, 2015.
Probably around 4 a.m. We reported into drill between 5:30.
And how long did you stay at drill on Sunday morning?
Well, we had a half day, so we were released around noon.
What'd you do after you were released?
Well, that day was a significant UFC event with Conor McGregor, and so my family and I, we had hoped to go straight to TGIF in Tumon to watch it. However, it was too crowded, so we decided to just watch it at home.
Okay, and what time were the fights supposed to be on?
The pre-fights are usually around 11, but I think the main events usually start around 1.
Okay. And so by 1, were you at home and watching, and what was going on?
Yes, sir. I was at home with my wife initially, who shortly after continued her day with her friends, and my father, my mother, and my 6-year-old, our 6-year-old daughter.
Okay, and what did you do all day?
We chess set and drank beer.
Okay. And how long did you watch the fights, or how long were you at the house that day, Sunday, July 12th?
The fights usually end around 4 o'clock. However, we just, my father and I continued to enjoy the day until my wife came home around 7, I think, and then I left probably around 10:30.
From the time you started watching fights at around 1 p.m. or 12 noon, is that right?
Yes, sir.
Until about 10 p.m. when you left the house.
Yes, sir.
How many beers or what were you drinking?
I had about a 12-pack of craft beer types.
And is this type of beer a stronger beer, alcohol content?
Generally stronger than like your Bud Lights and your Miller Lights and your Buds.
It's craft beer.
Yes.
What type of craft beer?
I would say it was Amberbach and Berry Weiss.
Are those your normal drinks? Is that your usual drink?
Any kind of craft beer I like to try.
Did Julia go out that day?
Yes.
What time did she go out?
Shortly after I came home, because she had already planned with her friends to attend the UFC at TGIF, but that also changed, and then I believe they went to Applebee's instead.
Okay. And what time did Julia return?
Around 7 p.m.
And did Julia go anywhere else other than Applebee's that day?
Yes.
Where?
She went to the beach bar.
Okay. Do you know who she was with?
I believe it was her two male friends, Jared and Mark.
Okay. And did you know she was going there?
Yes.
Okay. Where else did she go, do you know?
I think it was just Applebee's and beach bar and then home.
And what time did she get home?
Around 7.
And after she returned, what did you decide to do?
I decided to continue my day and on to the beach bar to meet my cycle mates.
And who are your cycle mates that you were supposed to meet?
I'm supposed to meet up with Officer Eddie Tiamzon and Officer Tim Flores.
And how did you make arrangements for that? Was that pre-planned or something?
Yes, well, it's very rare that my cycle mates and I have the same days off, and so we just so happen to be off that day and try to seize the moment. So we were communicating on our chat, just saying, hey, let's meet up, and Eddie ended up being there first. I was still with my family, finished with my family, and then decided to go ahead and join, which it ended up just being Eddie.
Okay. Tim Flores didn't make it?
No.
And so what time did you leave your house?
Between 10 and 10:30,
Okay. And what time did you get to Beach Bar?
around 11.
And what car were you driving?
My wife's black Yaris.
And what happened? Well, you know Bert Piolo.
Yes, sir.
And did you know at the time when you went there that he was playing in the band?
No, not that particular night.
Okay. Did you go there specifically to watch him in the band?
No, sir.
And what happens when you arrive?
I arrive, I walk up to the beach bar main entrance, and I see at the near side of the bar, because it's a square bar, Officer Eddie Tiamzon, who I was there to meet, and then it just so happened Officer Jimmy Rossetti was there with him.
That entire night, Marky, were you drinking?
Yes, sir.
Do you remember how much you had to drink the entire night?
Not the entire night.
Did something happen to you that night?
Yes, sir.
What happened?
I had a blackout.
What do you mean you had a blackout?
It's basically where I don't remember everything that took place that night.
When did you realize you first had a blackout? When did you first realize you had a blackout?
Monday morning, sometime when we arrived at Criminal Investigations Division.
Was it already sunrise?
Yes.
Have you been diagnosed by any medical professional as having suffered from some type of blackout?
Yes, sir.
Who is that?
Dr. Pablo Stewart.
And what to you is a blackout?
A blackout to me, before I learned, was basically a portion of a daytime event, persons that you don't recall everything. But I've learned in my discussions with Dr. Pablo that there's basically two forms. It's en bloc, which means in its entirety, and fragmentary, which means portions of snapshots that you do recall.
For instance, do you have a specific memory of everything you did and said that night?
No, sir.
Do you remember all the events that happened that night?
No, sir.
Do you remember some parts of that night?
Yes, sir.
What are fragmentary memories to you?
Fragmentary memories are like snapshot or flashes of memory or your recollection.
And what are narrative memories to you?
Narrative memories are memories that you have from start to finish, like when I woke up this morning till here today.
And do you have a reliable memory, a narrative memory of everything that happened that night?
Not a full narrative memory, no.
Let me ask you, have you ever had a blackout before?
Yes, sir, but not of this magnitude.
What do you mean by that? For instance, what do you recall about your prior experiences with blackouts?
More fragmented than not, but I don't even know if they reach the threshold of blackout. It's like hazy memories of something that may have occurred the night prior or even the day prior, whether sober or drinking.
Meaning you passed out or something like to that effect?
No, not necessarily, just that you have a difficult time remembering certain parts.
And for instance, before this night, how many times do you recall ever blacking out as to some type of memory?
It's a difficult number to put. I mean, it's because technically you don't really remember. But
You've experienced it a few times?
yes,
What do you remember that night? As you've just discussed, from the time you left your house.
well, as I said, I arrived at the beach bar around 11 and met with Officer Eddie Tiamzon, and right next to him was Officer Jimmy Rossetti. And I recall having a Amberbach beer and a Jaeger bomb, which is a shot with like an energy drink.
What other memories or feelings of memories do you have from that night at Beach Bar?
At the beach bar, well, after reviewing all discovery and evidence, the feeling thereafter was that I was engaged in conversation with groups of people at the beach bar and socializing with groups of people at the beach bar.
Do you remember leaving and going to abandoned ship?
No, sir.
We've seen the video of abandoned ship, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any of your own distinct memories of anything at abandoned ship that you've seen?
No, sir.
Do you have any feelings after reviewing this, or feelings of memories after reviewing the abandoned ship video?
Not at the abandoned ship, no.
Your first memory is going up and meeting up with Tiamzon and Rossetti at the beach bar. What's your next memory, Mark?
My next memory is I hear a loud boom and I feel a concussion as if a gun or a bomb, just a loud boom. And at that moment, it's like a flash where your eyes are open and I'm standing by the driver's side and there's a side of a person partially on the driver's seat area where it's just blood coming out.
And you're
And
pointing
it's-
to your chest, or the side of your
The
chest.
side of a person. And it's like viewing in tunnel vision where I don't even really know what the person is, I just see the side. And then I start to reach towards it, the bleeding site, as if to render aid, but it was like this dreamlike state where it was so slow, almost like I couldn't get to it.
And this is your first memory that you have after arriving at Beach Bar.
Yes, sir.
And these memories are depicted on what Ms. Blas showed the jury the other day, exhibits exhibits E 1 through 34, the defense demonstration that we did, correct?
Demonstrations, yes.
Okay. And you participated in this, right?
Yes, sir.
And it was in the truck. We used a similar truck. Tell us about that, what we did.
Yes, sir. So, based off of my memories, my fragmented memories, as well as evidence discovery review, we as the defense went ahead and we put together our demonstration of what occurred.
And you're in it?
Yes.
And it's a truck, the same positioning and all that?
Yes, sir.
And in the very first set of pictures, is that what you're talking about when you first hear a boom?
I need to see it, sir, but yes, that would be the first demonstration based off of my first
And where are you standing?
at the driver's side,
And where is the passenger, where is the
partially seated on the driver's seat.
and why do you say partially?
Because he wasn't totally in it or seated completely on it. It was kind of like a half on and half off.
And at the time you hear the boom, is that consistent with the gun going on?
Yes, sir.
And the depiction show, Bert, what does the depiction show? In terms of the gun?
It shows Bertie positioning the gun towards his head as if to take his life.
And what happens next?
And then I reach for it, and it's in an attempt to stop him.
And is he resisting?
And he resists that effort. And the gun goes off.
Did you ever see him in any of your memories at any point with your gun?
No, sir.
Do you know how he got it from you?
I have my thoughts, but no, sir.
At the time you went out and you had your gun with you, was it chambered and preloaded, if you will?
No, sir. I don't chamber my off-duty, personally owned firearm.
And how many bullets or rounds did it have in the gun?
9 bullets in the magazine, none in the chamber.
So it's not chambered, it's not preloaded.
No, sir, that's a safety that I in place because the Glock firearm doesn't have a traditional external safety lever or safety button that you can engage. And therefore, I thought best when off duty to not have it chambered so that there was no risk of accidental shooting.
And so has that been, and is that your practice whenever you take your gun out off duty?
Yes, sir.
In order for that gun then to fire, would someone have to actually chamber it and load it?
Yes, sir.
So before the boom went off, someone had to chamber and load it.
Yes, sir.
Did you ever chamber and load it, sir?
No, sir.
The series of defense demonstrations show you're touching him towards the wound area. What are you doing there?
Assisting him in applying pressure to the injury.
Why?
Because that's the first step in rendering aid, is to stop the bleeding or attempt to do so.
What do you see
When, sir?
at this time when you're rendering aid in your tunnel vision?
The side of the person bleeding.
Do you see blood coming out?
Yes, sir.
In the next series, it appears you're reaching for the gun. What are you doing there?
After the gun is fired and Bertie goes limp, the first instinct would be to retrieve that gun and put it into a safe condition.
And how are you trained to retrieve a gun or put it in a safe position after a gun like that goes off?
You grab it and you orient it in a safe direction, and you're trained to first drop the magazine so that no other rounds can be chambered.
And so what does that entail, dropping the magazine?
That would be depressing the magazine release button that would drop the magazine.
And it would fall out?
It would fall out. And at that point, now the only other bullet you're worried about is what was already chambered as a result of the first bullet that was shot.
And so what do you do with that bullet?
So the next step would be to successfully lock the slide to the rear so that the slide lock will engage the spring and the slide to the rear position and force the round that would have been ready to fire again to expend and fly out of the firearm. And that would have been the safest condition to put it in.
What happens if you don't withdraw or pull out the magazine fully? Or it doesn't fall out, and you try that maneuver?
Yes, sir. Well, if you fail or forget to drop the magazine, that means there's still bullets in there, in addition to the one that was already seated in the chamber from the first shot that goes off. And so that would basically allow for another round to be possible after the one that's in the ejection port currently.
The one that pops out.
Mhm.
That would be an unexpended cartridge.
Yes.
And so there's a third one that pops up. The first bullet is the gun that goes off.
Yes, sir. The first bullet is the projectile that enters Birdie. And the unexpended casing would also come out with that. The second bullet would have been the one that you attempt to pull the slide to the rear, and it ejects the unexpended round and flies out.
And where does that land? According to the pictures.
According to the evidence and pictures, it's on the passenger, the unoccupied passenger seat.
And so that's the second bullet.
Yes,
Where's
sir.
the third bullet?
Well, the third bullet, as we see, is stuck in the ejection port.
How did that happen? Supposedly, what is the mechanism that caused that to jam there, if you
Yes,
will?
sir. That's basically human error. That is impeding the action of the slide, which is supposed to rack and go forward because it's spring-loaded. And so in an attempt to clear, the one unexpended round would have gone onto the passenger seat. And you're supposed to let it go so that the gun completes its action on its own. However, if you ride the slide forward, for whatever reason, the next round that's there will get stuck.
Can you give us a comparison? Compare it to any type of other mechanism that you're talking about.
I think the best way to describe the action of the magazine and the spring is kind of like a Pez candy stick.
Toy?
Right, where you open the top and then the next candy is brought up into the chamber or where you're able to eat it.
And the next one pops up after you remove that first one.
Yes,
Because of the spring mechanism in the gun.
yes,
And as a matter of fact, the gun in this case was found, first of all, your gun,
yes, sir,
found on the dashboard.
yes, sir,
Magazine was inside it.
yes, sir,
And the bullet, there was one bullet stuck in it.
yes, sir, in the ejection port.
After your memory of, that are memories that are depicted in the photos, has you all the way to putting the gun up on the dashboard, correct?
Yes, sir.
And performing this series of events that would have resulted in the bullets ending up where they were.
Yes, sir.
Is that what the demonstration was?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, after that, what's your next reliable memory?
It's a flash, again, it's an instant flash of me bear hugging Birdie
Where are you located?
by the wall.
And is this similar to the body cam video that shows you up by the wall? Is that the similar type of scene flash?
Yes, sir.
What are you doing in this flash?
I feel that I'm doing my best to render aid to Birdie by applying pressure and trying to keep him conscious at the same time.
Do you have any memory of walking around or being feisty with Bert?
No,
Do you have any memories or feelings that he was trying to run away from you?
I feel as if, almost as if he didn't want help.
Do you have any memory of the calls you may have made or being on the phone?
No, sir.
Do you have a memory of making a message, leaving a message on Julia's phone?
No, sir.
You heard that message in court, do you remember it?
I don't remember leaving that message, but I do remember hearing the message in court.
And what is it you're saying in that message?
It sounds like I'm talking to Bertie, saying, Par, I'm done. We're done. I don't even know how this happened, Pari.
After your memory of bear hugging Birdie, what's your next reliable memory?
And then I have a memory of somebody, I don't know who, somebody asking me, where's your gun? And me not knowing where it was at.
Now, would this be approximately when your dad is talking to you on the body cam?
It could have been, but after reviewing the body cam, I believe there were more than just him that asked me, where's my gun?
So is this memory of anybody in particular asking for your gun, or are you inquiring where's your gun?
No, somebody's asking me, but I don't know in particular who's asking me.
And you saw the video camera of the medics asking you to lift up your shirt. Is it that incident?
It could be, sir.
So what's your next reliable memory, Mark? After, where's your gun?
The next flash that I have is of me riding in the back of an ambulance.
Were you talking?
I don't recall.
Do you recall the medics that were with you, like Mr. Tenorio that testified in this case?
No, sir.
Do you recall talking to him and making comments like I was just trying to help a friend, mumbling that?
No, sir.
Do you recall being described by the firefighter as having blacked out?
Not at the moment, but I recall the firefighter testifying to that.
And Marky, what's your next memory? After riding in the ambulance?
And then I remember arriving at the Naval Hospital ER, and
Who were you with?
the medic personnel.
Were you being brought in the gurney or were you walking in?
I believe I was walking in
Which gun?
into one of the ER rooms.
At this point, Marky, it's already after probably 4 in the morning. Is your memory starting to get better or not?
Starting to get better, but it's still hazy.
Okay. What else do you recall after walking into the ER room?
I remember getting into the ER room and there being a female nurse and a male doctor.
And what do you remember them saying or asking, if anything?
I don't remember the nurse talking or anything. I just remember the doctor towards the end just kind of looking at me saying, so what are you here for? Everything seems to be okay with you.
And that was towards the end of the examination?
Yes.
Did you say anything to him?
Not
At that time?
No, not that I recall.
And what time did you leave?
I don't know
Approximately
the
what
time. Yeah, it wasn't a very long, it was a short stay there. Because the doctor was kind of like, what are you doing here? And then he said, your father's outside. And I asked him if I'm okay to go, and he said yes.
What were you wearing at this time?
It was in their gown.
Do you know what had happened to your clothes?
Not at the time.
What do you recall seeing at the hospital while you're in the emergency room?
I just remember being bloody.
Did you eventually leave the emergency room?
Yes, sir, and I walked out to the lobby.
Were you given permission to leave, or?
Yes, I
Who
asked the
told you?
doctor if I was done, and he said, yes, you can go. Your father's waiting for you in the lobby.
And so what did you do?
I walked out to the lobby, met with my father.
And who was there?
At the time, it was Attorney Tom Fisher, Officer Jason Uggan, and Officer Tim Flores.
And who is Tom Fisher to you?
I didn't know it at the time, but he was a family friend.
And who called him, do you know?
I don't know.
Did Tom tell you anything at the time at the hospital?
Yeah, he just said, is anyone talking to you? And I said, no, sir. And he said, okay, go home.
And so what did you do?
I just recall following my father. We went to the truck and I went to sleep in the parking lot of the hospital.
In whose truck?
My father's truck.
Do you know how long you went to sleep?
I don't, but I know there was low light outside, and then by the time I was awoken, either by Officer Chang or somebody else, it was about, the sun had just maybe broke.
And at this time, have you gotten any sleep since the day before?
No, sir, just in that truck.
And how did you become awoken in the truck?
Officer Chang from the Criminal Investigations Division came and said, Marky, I need you to sign over your clothes to me.
And did you do so?
I signed a custody receipt, a GPD custody receipt, yes.
And after that, what happened?
And then I went back to sleep.
And then where'd you go?
And then I remember waking up at a store with my father.
Okay.
He said, I'm gonna go in and get some things. I think he came out with water, and then we proceeded on to the Criminal Investigations Division in Teedzon.
What time did you get there?
Early morning, it was daytime, or it was light out, but the offices weren't even open for business yet.
Who was there with you?
My father, Officer Uggan. Well, my father first.
And then Jason Uggan?
I believe he came shortly after.
And what did you do that morning since you arrived?
We waited for detectives to arrive right outside their door on the second floor balcony.
And did anyone arrive and come to talk to you? In the morning hours?
People arrived, but nobody was talking to us.
And where were you waiting, inside or outside?
Right outside.
Do you recall what time I arrived at?
Late morning or lunchtime?
And what did I tell you to do?
Go home.
And so what did you decide to do? Or what did you and your dad do?
Well, we decided to just stay to further cooperate.
Okay, and what happened where did you stay?
Outside until I don't know what time, but then we finally went in and we sat in their lobby area, which is just inside of the door.
And what time were you eventually arrested?
5:02 p.m.
By an officer?
Officer Jessica Meyenberg.
What time that morning did you realize you couldn't remember what fully had happened?
Sometime around arriving to the Criminal Investigations Division.
So Mark, what happened that night at your house?
The best I can recall, and from evidence, discovery, my feelings. Bertie tried to take his life. I tried to stop it. He shot himself.
Did you intentionally shoot him?
No, sir.
Did you recklessly shoot him?
No, sir.
Did you ever point the gun at him?
No, sir.
In the demonstration, how easy is it for the gun to end up in that position?
It's easy, sir.
You're a police officer, Marky? You're trained to investigate cases?
Yes, sir.
You assisted in the investigation of this case yourself?
Very much so.
You've been on house arrest for 1.5 years, so you've been able to see everything, all the evidence that's been produced.
Everything, sir.
I've provided you with all the videos, all the reports, all the investigators' reports. You've been involved with the case.
Yes, sir.
For instance, in all the photos of the truck and the evidence in there, what does that show?
That shows that there was a discharge of a firearm somewhere at the threshold of the driver door.
Where's all the blood in the pictures?
concentrations are on the driver's side of the vehicle.
And about the driver's seat?
Heavy saturations on majority of the driver's seat.
And is it limited to the driver's seat right arm cushion area?
Not limited, no.
Where is it?
It's spanning, I would say, at about 3/4 of the seat, with the heavier pulling of blood and vomitus by the right corner of the driver's seat.
Is there blood on the dashboard cover?
As revealed by Officer Perez, yes, there's two smaller than a speck of blood.
Do you know if there's any tested on the ceiling or on the passenger seat?
No, sir.
What are your clothing and Bert's clothing show?
Heavy bleeding on the right side of Bert's clothing and heavy blood saturation on my chest and abdomen.
In positioning the demonstration that we did, how hard or how easy was it to have the gun 1 to 3 inches and have the shirt folded, if you will?
It wasn't difficult at all, sir, whether by yourself or with resistance.
For instance, in the videos of Bert entering abandoned ship, how tight is his shirt? Can you tell?
It appears large.
Okay. And for instance, in reviewing the evidence and the shirts themselves, because you attended the viewing, right?
Yes, sir.
Do you see a lot of the vomit on it?
Vomit particles, heavier though on the tank top.
And what does all the blood and vomit evidence show?
That
Objection. He's not an expert on this, Your Honor.
Well, whose blood was it? Whose blood was all that was found?
all birdies.
And whose fibers from whose shirt was found on the gun analyzed by FBI?
Birdie's shirt.
You reviewed all of the FBI cell phone analysis in the case as well, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you did that together with the investigators that were helping in the case?
Yes, sir.
And you heard Agnes testify that the cell phones contain, essentially, millions of pages of information.
Yes, sir.
Is that right? And you've gone through all of these and made some type of analysis or determination of what they show in particular.
Objection,
Yes,
Your
sir.
Honor.
Council approach.
You reviewed all the cell phone contents as well.
Yes, sir.
And we've provided a number of items from there that the defense has chosen, essentially, from that cell phone analysis,
Yes, sir.
including your phone was analyzed as well.
Yes, sir.
And some of the things that we've provided include your photos and your WhatsApp messages around the date in question.
Yes, sir.
And it has a bunch of Bert Piolo's messages, WhatsApps, all those things, for a period of time from May to July 2015.
Yes, sir.
When you were arrested, Marty,
Yes, sir.
did Officer Meienberger ask you to test your arms or your hands for gunshot residue?
In the presence of Investigator Camacho, no, sir.
Did she ever ask?
No, sir.
Did you assert your right to remain silent and your right to counsel at the time you were arrested by Officer Meinberger?
Yes, sir.
And is that because I had met with you earlier that day?
Yes, sir.
Are you aware, did they take your fingerprints?
Upon processing my arrest, yes, sir.
And could they have taken, in your opinion as a police officer, could they have taken GSR at the time?
Objection,
Yes, sir.
calls for speculation.
Sustain, the jury would disregard the answer of the witness.
But it's your memory that Officer Meinberger did not ask you.
She did not.
Marky, do you have post-traumatic stress disorder?
Yes, sir.
What is post-traumatic stress disorder?
It's what the name implies. It's stress caused by a traumatic incident.
When were you first diagnosed by a medical professional with having post-traumatic stress disorder?
Shortly after the incident, July 2015.
Why did you get diagnosed, or did you go see a doctor?
Yes, sir. That was at your advisement to see if a psychiatrist could help me with my fragmented or with my memory loss.
And so who did you go see?
I went to the VA, and the doctor there was Dr. Myron Harrison.
And where's the VA?
Well, the main office is up here, but at the time we went to the one down south.
And what day did you go?
I believe it was about a week later.
And did he conduct any tests or examination of you?
Yes, sir.
And did he make a diagnosis after meeting with you?
Yes, sir.
How many doctors have you seen in total who have diagnosed you with having PTSD?
Dr. Myron Harrison, the initial doctor, and on to Dr. Mary Ferger.
Where's Dr. Mary Ferger from?
Well, she's from Guam, and she's located up at the Seabach, right up here, right up the hill,
And where does she work?
at the VA center there.
And who's the next doctor who's
And then
diagnosed you?
Dr. Joan Gill.
And what is Dr. Joan Gill?
She's a psychiatrist, also with the VA and up here at the main office.
Do you know how long Dr. Joan Gill and Dr. Mary Ferger have been working with the veterans up there in the Veterans Affairs clinics?
From communications with them, quite a while.
And you've been under their treatment since then?
Yes, sir.
Any other doctor, medical doctor or psychiatrist, diagnosed you as having PTSD?
Dr. Pablo Stewart from
And-
San Francisco.
Okay. And he's a psychiatrist as well?
Yes, sir.
Now, you've not been diagnosed when you returned from war in 2008, and again when you returned from war in 2013, with having suffered or having experienced or been diagnosed with PTSD after your tour of war in those cases, correct?
Yes, sir.
What happens to you each time you deploy and you come back from war with the military in terms of checking on your health, checking on your mental health?
We're given pre and post health assessments.
And what are those?
It's basically a questionnaire. You fill in the bubble on what you've experienced, what you feel, things like that.